Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. I am here today to review the Amazfit GTR, which is a new smartwatch from Amazfit. Well, it's actually not that new. It's been out for about a month. I am a bit behind the times when it comes to reviewing this watch. That's because I've been traveling. I've been traveling around Europe, went to Milan, Greece, Germany, several other places, and I had a great time. But now I'm back and I've been using the Amazfit GTR. I'm pretty much used to it now. I pretty much know what the pros and cons are, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. I also have here the Amazfit Verge. I'm not going to do a full comparison in this video, but I will mention it. And I also have the Stratos, the BIP. I've pretty much used every Amazfit watch going, so I know what's good, what's bad, and how the GTR kind of fits into the lineup, whether it's worth upgrading, whether it's worth buying. So let's get started. Now, there are two versions of this watch, a larger one and a smaller version. I believe I have the smaller version, which is fine with me because I have quite small wrists. So the GTR comes in either a 1.39 inch or 1.2 inch screen size with 454 by 454 pixels for the larger version and 390 by 390 for the smaller version, but both have a pixel density of 326 ppi. They both use AMOLED screens, which we've become used to now in Amazfit watches. There is a new Amazfit watch coming out now with a transflective display, which is much better if you're into sports and if you're worried about daylight kind of blurring the screen. The watch is circular and it either comes with stainless steel casing material or aluminium or titanium, depending which one you buy. Obviously the titanium is going to be more expensive. Either way, the design of the watch is fairly modern and fairly classic looking. It's not cheap, it doesn't look cheap, it's not plastic. People complain about the Verge because it does have a plastic body, but in my opinion, the GTR is a lot better looking thanks to that high quality casing. The screen is protected with Gorilla Glass, so it is slightly scratch resistant. It's also waterproof fully to 5 ATM, which means you can go swimming with it. As for connections, it features Bluetooth, NFC, GPS, a heart rate monitor, a pedometer. It can also measure calories, it can also measure your sleep, and it can also measure the distance you travel in a day. There is not much internal storage, only 64 megabytes, which is pretty much for the operating system, so you cannot put any files on the watch, and it only has 16 megabytes of RAM. There is also no microphone or no loudspeaker. However, it can receive calls and texts via the screen. It will notify you when you get a text, when you get a call, if you get a WhatsApp message, Facebook message, or any other app that you choose, but it will only notify you by vibration and by displaying the message on the screen. And now all of that equals a kind of semi-sports watch. It's not quite fully a sports smartwatch. It does feature many sporty features like the barometer, like the water resistance, pedometer, accelerometer, heart rate monitor. However, just by looking at the design, you can tell it's more of a casual design rather than a fully sports watch. There's also not as many smartwatchy features like the lack of a microphone and a speaker. Now, the one thing I was concerned about is the lack of RAM, only 16 megabytes, which I thought would mean it's going to be quite slow, quite clunky. However, I found it to be actually pretty quick. I've not seen any difference compared to any other Amazfit watch or any other smartwatch that I've used. Maybe slightly slower than what you'd expect to see on an Apple Watch or one of the Samsung watches. However, this is literally half the price of those, so you are gonna get what you pay for. It's not ridiculously slow, slightly slower than the most premium watches. Now let's take a look at this screen because it is one of its best features, I think, because it looks very good. In fact, the whole design of the watch is probably its best feature. As you can see, it's got two manual buttons here, which don't do that much. It's just to select, to turn it on, to turn it off, to kind of change menus. Now, as you can see, it's not always on display like most AMOLED screens. They do not stay on for very long. I think you can have a setting to have some information displayed all the time, but that will affect the battery life. If you have it on your wrist and you move your wrist up to look at the time, it will automatically turn on as well. It has a little sensor that knows when you're looking at it. I think it looks really good. There's obviously many different watch faces which will change how it looks, but particularly with this watch face, I quite like it. The main thing, the biggest difference I found compared to many other Amazfit watches is the inclusion of this quite premium strap. Usually the Amazfit watches come with like very cheap plastic straps, but they've kind of included this material, this almost fake leather watch strap, which does a lot better job of making the entire watch look much more premium and much more like a normal watch. Plastic straps often, I don't know, irritate my skin a bit, so this is much better and it comes with the watch straight away. So yeah, I really like the design of the watch, and as you can see, very easy to use, very easy to navigate the menus. There's not really that many menus to look for. And that's pretty much it. Those are the settings, and then you just swipe to see kind of your daily activity levels. And yeah, so that's kind of the basic menu structure. It's obviously not a proper smartwatch like you would find, like I say, in the iWatch, the Apple Watch, I should say, and Samsung and even Huawei watches. This is kind of a halfway house between a smartwatch and a standard one. But it does have some smart tracking features, which is good. But I mean, it looks really good, I think. It is slightly on the thick side, but even compared to many other Amazfit watches, it's still pretty thin. If we look at the Amazfit Verge here, the Verge is slightly thicker and I think a lot more ugly, to be honest. Yeah, there's quite a big difference there, actually. And I find it super comfortable. I mean, I've been sleeping with it and I've not found it to be annoying. So for sleep tracking, it's very good. It's one of the only larger smartwatches that I've used that's been good for sleep tracking. Now, as for the other features, for example, there's the heart rate monitor, the sports tracking. I've done a few tracking sessions while I've been at the gym and I have found it to be reasonably good at tracking heart rate. I mean, it does detect when I'm going for a run or if I'm lifting weights. It will show that kind of that sequence of events, and you can see it in the history of when you look at your workout, and it will work out your average heart rate, work out your highest, your lowest point, and tell you all that information. All of these smartwatch heart rate monitors, take them with a pinch of salt. They're not going to be super accurate, but over a long period, they will give you an indication of how well your heart rate is and how much it goes up and down, and whether you're working out hard enough, or maybe you could be doing a little bit more. Me. Now, probably one of the best features of the Amazfit GTR, which is kind of what has been pushed in all the marketing, is the battery life. Now, it has a very, very long battery life for a watch of this size and for a watch that can do quite a few things. Not like a full smartwatch, like I've said, but it can do quite a lot. If you use all the battery saving features that this watch has, you can last up to 24 days on a single charge. Now, I'm not going to be using all the battery saving features. For example, I have continuous heart rate monitoring on, so that will reduce the battery life. However, even with that, I've been using this for 5 days. I only charged it up to about 80% and I am now on 55%. So 5 days and loss of about 30% of the battery. Not too bad, I think. I think it will last me roughly 15 or between 15 and 20 days, I think. That is, however, with the GPS off, I must stress, because with GPS on, the battery life is plummeted quite quickly. If you had the GPS on all the time, it will go down to 22 hours of battery life. But you don't need the GPS on all the time. You only need that if you're going to go for a run, a bike ride, and you want to track it and you want to have that data available to you. So overall, the tracking features, the sports tracking, is pretty much along the lines of other smartwatches like the Amazfit Verge and like the Amazfit Stratos and like Fitbits and stuff like that. They're very similar in what they can do these days. You're not going to see a huge amount of difference between each of these watches. Now, unfortunately, the GTR does kind of have this negative aspect of it, that it doesn't have many of these extra features. It doesn't have a microphone or a speaker, so you cannot reply or dictate messages. You cannot use it as an external phone. Now, it doesn't have access to any other apps apart from the ones that are already available on there. You may be able to add some via some alternate means, but it doesn't have access to an app store like, you know, the Samsung watches do and Apple watches. So what you get on here is basically what you're going to get. For me, it's fine. It's a cheap watch. It looks good. It's comfortable to wear. It looks better than any other Amazfit watch that I've used, and a lot better than many other sporty smartwatches coming out now. If you're okay with not having those apps, those extra apps, and you're okay with not having the speaker and the microphone, then this is a pretty good deal. It does lack some features, like I say, and not very much RAM. It doesn't have any other external storage, so you can't put music on there. However, you can connect it to Spotify. So as long as your watch and your phone are connected, you can change songs, you can pause songs, you can see what song is playing, turn the volume up and down, all that kind of stuff. So let's summarize now the Amazfit GTR. The pros, it looks great. It's a very well-designed watch. It uses great materials, very high quality. It looks more expensive than it is, and the strap that it comes with is a more premium than any other Amazfit watch that I've ever had. The screen is very bright, very clear, very colorful. If you are not into AMOLED displays, then you're never going to be, but it doesn't work that well in direct sunlight. That's the same for every watch that uses this screen technology. The battery life is awesome, up to 24 days. Really, in reality, you're going to get around 15 to 20. And the price, it's pretty cheap for what it is. Check out my link in the description. That's the cheapest price I've found to buy it if you want to check it out. But for what it can do, it's a pretty good deal, I think. Now, the cons. Obviously, it lacks a microphone and a speaker or any other really impressive extra features, because there isn't really any. It doesn't have any extra storage, so you cannot put any more files like music onto the watch itself, and it doesn't have access to any kind of app store or any other extra apps. So yeah, that's it. That's the Amazfit GTR. As you can see, I quite like it. I mean, there are so many Amazfit watches now, it's really hard to decide. I would say if you want a watch that looks good, that's the main thing. You want a watch that looks good and does most of the other tracking features that all the other Amazfit watches do, then get this watch, because it basically does exactly the same thing as the Verge, apart from the lack of a microphone and speaker. Those are the two things that are going to make the difference. So if you have any questions, comments, but until next time, I'll see you around. Bye.